Broughshane was a nowhere, which has managed to be transformed into a somewhere. It is just a great success story. These folk, through their sheer perseverance, through their desire to succeed, and through their love of where they live, have really made a huge success of this whole place.
Broughshane Improvement Committee was first formed in November 1987. And the starting point was really nothing to do with flowers. It was just to try and tidy up the village generally, to make it a brighter place for people to live. In 1993, we actually won Britain Bloom. We were at first place in the whole of the entire United Kingdom to win the European Entente for All. And that subsequently gave us the right to host the competition in the future. We decided it would take some time to prepare ourselves as a small village to do that, but we decided eventually to go for the year 2000.
We're very confident the Entente for All will be a success in Broughshane because we've got the determination and the commitment and the enthusiasm to make it work.
This is definitely the biggest event that has ever happened in Broughshane. But that is really what Broughshane always is looking for, to do something bigger, to do something better. Okay, everybody, welcome to your monthly meeting of Broughshane Improvement Committee. You're all well aware that the next 6 months is probably going to be the most active and maybe the most difficult 6 months we've ever had in this whole challenge over the last 12 years. Joe, could you maybe fill in the committee with your ideas of what you think we should use as the colour scheme for this special Millennium event?
Well, our window boxes are going to be with two types of batty letters, the new double batty letter. And one's red, and the other ones are red and white. And then along the front of the box will be done. That's enough.
What we always do here in Broughshane on May Day, there's a sort of standing order in the village here where the villagers come here and fill the baskets, just at this stage with the actual peat or the compost. Right. We fill probably somewhere in the region of about 360 baskets altogether. We also have the filling of the window boxes as well, and of course then there's all the flower beds around the village. You're talking about probably a region of 100,000 plants being planted in the village this year. You'd be talking about a probable cost of somewhere around £7,000 or £8,000, and that's keeping it to an absolute minimum. Joe McClintock has greenhouses down in the village, and Joe would actually bring on the plugs to the stage where they're actually planted here, eventually into the baskets and the window boxes, ably assisted, I must say, by his wife Hannah.
The tubs and the beds that we have around the village, they don't go out to the last week in June till we're absolutely sure that the frost's away. We could get frost. One year we had a disaster. We had our begonias out and we got a frost and a bat and a sharp wind, and we thought we were finished as far as the competitions were concerned. But with a wee bit of care and attention and a wee bit of feeding, we got them going, and at the end of the day, it done well for us. But you don't get your fingers burnt twice.
The first year we planted around Broughshane, when we look back at it now, it's actually quite laughable about the types of plants we used and where we actually planted them. And I'm sure some of the flower experts around Broughshane laughed at us, but I think the main thing was in those early days we had enthusiasm.
Ian Walsh come to me and he said, we have a pump down here, the Jubilee pump. And he says, do you think could you do a wee feature down there to brighten it up? So we made boxes and we filled them up with plants, and it really looked good. We weren't expecting to get any prizes. We got these prizes. It really enthused us, and we've got stuck onto everything, and we have people coming now from everywhere, like, to see the village, like. People coming from way of Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, and they're all coming taking photographs.
The community association was originally formed out of the start of the Troubles, really, in 1969. Dr. Redmond, the local doctor, foreseen a situation whereby maybe some of the young kids in the village could perhaps get involved in paramilitary organisations. So he got a team of people together, particularly young parents, and really he was the mastermind behind the development of the local community centre. They all mucked in free of charge, did it all completely voluntary labour. It brought people of all religions together and people of all ages. There's hardly a night there's not some activity on in the hall, and that's really one of the reasons why we're now trying to create more community space through the development at Houston's Mill.
Houston's Mill is unique really because what we're planning to do is to restore a building and put it into modern use while still keeping a lot of the heritage elements that existed before, but not really using anything that doesn't have a function today.
The mill building is a refurbishment of an old flax mill. There's community offices, there's a seminar function room, there'll be a kitchen, there'll be a business unit, a computer suite, and we have a cottage also at the mill, which we'll rent out as like a tourist cottage. On the same site, there'll be a garden nursery, and that came from a demand for a community-owned business in horticulture because of the obviously success with the flowers in the village.
The first thing we had to do was to get the wheel out and have a look at it because it was very deep in the building. That was an exercise in itself because until we started to lift it, we didn't appreciate how big or how heavy it was. When it came out and we placed it on the site to work at it, everybody in the village was impressed with the size and the scale of it, and a lot of people said, oh, we want to keep it out there.
After all, inside the mill it's going to be within a stone building, and any stone building to me looks the same, but if the mill wheel was sitting out there between the mill and the main road, I think visitors going past it would really attract them.
Most wheels were outside the building always, and that wheel was always inside, and I think it should be kept in its original place.
My idea would be to have it actually running and have some sort of a artificial watering system, so you'd see the water running off and have it lit up at night with lights, etc.
I think that would be an outrageous idea. All the kids would be clambering up the wheel and they'd be pulling the flowers out. It is totally unsupervised, and I definitely would be against that. A horrible idea. Definitely not outside.
Eventually it was decided that it was appropriate to put it back in its position, and it will form a centrepiece to the new building, though it will have to be static for safety reasons and because of its condition.
We want to generate electricity to make the whole mill more cost effective by using the old turbine which has been in the mill for many, many years. There has been hardly any water running down the mill lathe. That's because it's become overgrown with trees. Lots of leaves have fell in and blocked it in places. Roots have grown out at the side of the lathe, which means that there's actually places where the water is seeping out. All that has got to be repaired. It's got to be cleaned out to let the water run down. It's about approximately a mile from the weir in the river down to the turbine. It's very hard work, but it didn't put anybody off, and people have enjoyed themselves. And it was lovely to see kids of 16 and 17 years of age today and yesterday working with, obviously, people of over 70 years of age. The total mill project basically will cost in the region of £1 million. We got a lot of the money, obviously, through the Peace and Reconciliation funds from Europe under the Dolores Peace Initiative. But we don't want to be a committee that's seen to be living in grants, so to speak, because that will inevitably dry up. So we are now going through a third stage, and what I would say our final stage of economic community development, whereby we have got to basically get money in through the things that are happening at the mill. Today's the third Saturday in June. Generally we tend to do this on the third Saturday. It's like a standing order. We've about 300 baskets here to put out today, and some from the region have about 120 window boxes. So we're doing a colour coordinated scheme throughout the village. We have to make sure that the traders blend in with us. So we have now taken on the role, if you like, of doing most of the traders' window boxes and baskets as well, and they subsequently pay us towards the cost of the plant. When you put them up in the poles and in the shops at this particular stage, they're high up, and it still is going to take them another couple of 3 weeks to grow right over the top of the basket and of course the window boxes. The whole secret of a good basket is to have it well filled, and certainly by about the early stages in August you should not be able to see any basket, and you shouldn't be able to see any window boxes. They should be tapered right over the top.
I'm very pleased this year. Strange to say, we had no frosts. This year, hardly any frost, and the plants got away well.
I think we'll have to put another one on there. Bring that way up.
It's a big responsibility, but it's not a responsibility in a way, because if you love doing something, you'll do anything. The end results, when we see it there in the month of July, August, September, the end results, it's invaluable. Money wouldn't buy it. The feeling that it gives you, like that you have accomplished something really good, you know.
That looks okay, it's right.
Basically, it's now mainly down to watering and maintenance, and we have a secret formula for feeding the plants in Broughshane that everybody wants to know about, and the formula's down to Joe.
There isn't any secrets as far as I'm concerned, not that I know of, only just a lot of hard work and look after the plants well. I tell the people here, you look after the plants and treat them the way you treat your wife, gently. That's the way it is.
Many towns and villages are now seeking our support and our help. And we've actually went as far away as Newmarket in County Cork. And today we're going to Strenocum, which is near Ballymoney in County Antrim. Strenocum are relative newcomers, obviously, to Ulster and Bloom, and I'm very interested to see today how they have got on for the year 2000.
Down at the river here, we were hoping to maybe get a riverside walk and some flower beds and tables and chairs for fishermen to rest and have a cup of tea.
Well, I mean, that's ideal. I mean, in our own village, we have obviously a river walk there, which we got some help from the Department of Agriculture Land Drainage Division. And the whole idea is for yourselves to try and work with these various agencies. Immediately here,
it was actually the community policeman who encouraged us to get something going in the village. And they arranged to have a public meeting up in the school, and from there a committee was elected, and that's how it started.
We do try to raise some money ourselves.
We have a fun night, and we have a duck race just down in the river there. We've over 100,000.
No.
How many? 100 ducks?
1,344 ducks we have.
Right. Going down the river. Plastic, by the way, not real.
just behind you there.
The more ducks, the more money.
More money, yes.
Well, I mean, from that point of view, that is the most important funding that you will ever get. I think some of the community groups get too much involved, if you like, in European funding and all the rest.
It has actually snowballed quite a bit. Like, you know, we started off with 24 hanging baskets. Since then, a new housing scheme has been built, and naturally enough, they were looking for hanging baskets around there, so it's now gone up to 38.
I can tell you, I have drove through Sternockham there today, and you probably have more effort in your first year in Sternockham than we had. And certainly, anything that we can help you with, we're always there at the end of the telephone line.
Well, I know you people are the experts.
I don't know about the expert. There's nobody experts. It's like everything else. You learn every year as you go along.
This year, on top of having the baskets, we've purchased a donkey's cart which we're going to fill with flowers, and hopefully that'll add a bit more colour to the village. We're entered in the Ulster in Bloom competition. I don't know how we'll do, but we would hope that at least that'll give us some experience of what the judges want and what they don't want, like, you know.
Is that all right, Willie? You happy with that?
No, that looks good. I don't think we'll take first prize by any means, but at least it'll be a start.
In the early days in Broughshane, it was all street painting, vandalism, just anything at all, we were at it. Curb printing is an annual thing. It's done every 12th of July. In those days, it looked okay. It brightened the place up, really. But whenever we had it done, we thought we were great.
In those early days, we would have spoke to maybe 6 or 8 young fellas who would have done this type of thing. And we agreed with them in the early years to get rid of all the painting up the poles, the pump and so on, and we just left the curb painting. Then the second year, certainly in competitions, we had got to a stage where we were getting some recognition, although we hadn't actually won the Ulster in Bloom. And we talked to them again with a view to actually painting out the red, white and blue curbs immediately after the 12th celebrations in the village. And that particular year, significantly, we won Ulster in Bloom. And from that day to this, without us actually having asked them not to paint it, from that day to this, there has been no curb painting. Young people still see the flags as like a symbol whereby it gives a village an identity of being a Protestant village, or in the case of a nationalist village, the opposite would obviously occur. But I think at the end of the day, these young fellas cannot be marginalised. They are part of our society, and I think if you're going to be in community development, they have to be given a certain amount, their point of view. And as far as the flags are concerned, they've agreed to minimise the amount of flags at the back end of August.
Ian Wilson, he came one night and asked me to give him a hand, do a bit of work. Ian, he's one of these people that's very persuasive. Every other night it was doing watering, doing this, doing digging, planting. So that's about 12 years ago. And it's been going since. It's a big change for me. I was always into the sectarian side of things till I started with the village improvement. Now I never bother. The most I'd do now is put up a basket.
The young chaps in the village here have never actually returned to painting the curbs, but each year the frost obviously wears down, the black paint on the curbs, and you also have considerable traffic hitting the curbstones from time to time. I think their paint way back 12 years ago was obviously of better quality than what we use. So usually around April we do a repainting of the curbs. We have no problems with that, and the people in the area have no problems with it. Nobody sees it being disrespectful or anything to loyalism. I think the most important thing is that we promote the village, which is predominantly a Protestant village, and promote it all over the world. And people now have all individually seen the benefits of that. For many years, obviously, even coming from the politicians down, we've been told not to take funding for this, not to take funding for that. And you found 5 years down the line, then they're telling you to take it, and there's an imbalance that's been created. But we have got in at the bottom there, so we have, and certainly we are one of the villages that would now be recognised by all sections of the community. There's people who can research funding, who can get jobs done that are community-based and completely open to all sections of the community.
I've lived in Broughshane all my life. I've born and reared in it. Big difference, you know, with the buildings in the main street, plus there's an awful lot of new housing developments and things like that there, plus, of course, the flowers. I would say roughly maybe 12, 13 years ago, you know, everybody started getting interested in it. You know, there was a big change about then, but every year it's just been getting better and better.
Once they win, and that's made public, the public then flock to the place to see all the floral attractions, and whilst they're there, they're spending money in the shops, so the shops are immediately reporting and seeing an increase in their business. Then the next thing you find, people are saying, wouldn't it be lovely to live there, such a nice place? And then the developers begin to see this, and they say, oh, well, now there's business to be had there, so they start moving in and building where they can around and about, and so the whole place is lifted, as you like, all largely from flowers.
I would say probably the new people coming into the village, the success of Broughshane probably has a part to play in it. You know, how nice it's kept and, you know, how good a place it is to live in. There's no big pressure at all to keep up the gardening in Broughshane. It's just to think Broughshane's lucky enough to have a lot of keen gardeners, and I think maybe that's half of their secret, you know, of their success.
Well, for Ulster in bloom is a very important aspect.
This is a superb planting because they've got the petunias and the violas.
They're very effective.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
And the yellow violas picked up by the yellow bags.
Yeah.
Ulster in bloom started about the early 1970s. The first year, I think there were about 14 entries, and this year there's 150. The competition is fierce.
Look at this. Just look at that. Isn't that tremendous? If only the washing was in now, that would be a beautiful display. Really?
Now, the actual planting of flowers in Broughshane this year, I thought, on the whole, was slightly further behind, but Broughshane are trying to hit a middle chord with Ulster in bloom, which is now the end of July, and the Entente Florale, which they're hosting this September. Look, Eric, at this display. Is that lovely?
Mara, Hillsborough, other places have come along the same. But I think that what makes Broughshane special is the fact that it has grown up and it has developed, and every year they have something new.
Did the success of Broughshane and Ulster in bloom have anything to do with your success in this garden?
I would say yes, it encouraged us to very much.
Competitions have got to be kept in perspective. We've always said that. The number one issue is to make this a lovelier place for people to live in here. But at the end of the day, the competitions are important. It gives us a bit of clout whenever we go to public bodies like the council, the DOE, Housing Executive and so on. They are really amazed at the work going on in Broughshane, and they're very, very helpful to us.
You're not an enthusiast for these carts, are you, Kay?
I am an enthusiast for a cart when it is in the right place.
Yeah.
And I think Stranocum is sufficiently into the farming community for me to say, well, this fits into the scene.
Nice begonias there over at the War Memorial, though maybe the weeping begonias would have been better in that situation. Yeah. I think Stranocum has made a really good effort. I think there's quite a way to go, but very commendable what has been done, and I'm sure that as the years go by it will get better and better. It's a lovely place to work in and to live in, and it can be improved by working on the natural facilities and amenities that there are here.
Grass area and this display of trees, which are obviously well established, is a very welcoming.
Aye, it sets it off very nicely.
Once we have finished judging, we do mark every place, and it's out of 100 points. We also write notes about every place we visit, and we try to keep to constructive criticism as opposed to destructive criticism. And I know people are certainly waiting anxiously to discover what we're going to say. But I still think it would have softened it greatly if they had something trailing out.
The water supply has been a real problem. It's been the biggest disaster, really, of the project.
There's a leakage and a lot of the water line goes down through the side wall of the lake. Rabbit holes are a big factor, and also bits of trees and branches wear away the side of the lake. I would say 75% of the water is leaking through the side wall. So it meant that we weren't getting enough water down on this end to actually make the overspill function on the turbine.
One of the problems is that there was pipes put in and they weren't put in actually low enough. So we've had to bring in contractors here sort of on the final few days to rip away 2 bridges, take the pipes out, put big new pipes in, and hopefully within a couple of days of the European visitors coming here, we will have water down and some electricity being generated as well. But it's been quite a nightmare. It's lying completely empty at the minute. It's brown. It looks as if there's never going to be any water come down it.
On for hours next week. We've been cleaning up all around the village, taking away all the litter, and we've been getting all the old dead blooms of the plants, and we're feeding the plants today because that'll be the last feed they get now. Everybody says, you see, that when they see us around the street, they say this is Wilson's volunteers coming. They're the backbone of the whole apparatus, you know. Sandy is the man that looks after the financial end of things. He leads by example. They were brought up in the village, and they are really the backbone of the committee.
You got the tickets with you?
Yes, I have the tickets with
Great,
me.
Sally.
I hope
Are
you
you
like the
pleased?
design. Yes, there's 3 sets for the different functions.
They were going to do them in gold originally, Sally. Was
Well, the price was a bit prohibitive. I
Was
thought
it?
it was too much. And
Right. That's fine. Those are lovely.
So all we have to do now is to make sure these functions happen.
we sell plenty of tickets.
We're the smallest village in Europe actually to ever host the Entente for All, and that in itself created a problem. Where do you put all these people? We weren't going to take the event out of Broughshane, so the only way we could do this was this big top. It will seat in the region of 600 people for the award ceremony night, and when we get it dressed up with flowers and so on, heated, floored, carpeted, it'll look really the part. When we discussed the entertainment of these people when they come from Europe, we decided it had to be very musical and dance orientated, and if you like, display to these visitors the culture of the area, featuring everything basically from the fiddle to the bagpipes to the accordion and to the flute.
Netherlands?
The Netherlands,
Yes.
yes.
Pleased to meet you. Welcome to Northern
Thank you.
Ireland. Valerie Blake, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Broughshane can't actually be in the competition when we're actually hosting it for the United Kingdom this year.
And there's more.
The judges will arrive, obviously, and they'll be very, very busy. They have now went round all the various places throughout the summer months.
Austria? Yes.
And it's actually here, in the first day of their visit,
that they will likely decide the main winners, if you like, of the competition.
Good and sad, yes. Okay, thank you. Right, just this way and we'll get your luggage.
There's a wee bit of water coming over there.
Are we going to get any water, do you think?
Oh,
hopefully. There's a few leaks up along the lane there, but I think they're all blocked up now.
When did you turn it on? Are you sure you turned it on, Joe? Joe, this might affect your pension if it's water doesn't come over here.
There's a drop coming now. It's coming.
Yeah, we're coming. There's a trickle now, look.
We have a wee bit of adjustment to do so that we can get the water nice and smooth coming over the edge, like a sheet of glass about an inch thick, but it requires a very, very smooth edge to get that, and that's the way we want to have it.
Boys, I don't think there's enough water over that yet for Joe to get his final check. What do you think?
Oh, no,
I think we want another wee bit of water before Joe gets the last instalment.
Are you serious about that? You want that right?
So there's a colour scheme, red, yellow and blue throughout all the planting schemes.
The Entente Florale is almost like a coronation here. They've had an enormous amount of success over many years, and indeed people are coming now to study their methods.
It's nice that you can walk straight into a field of wildflowers. You'll see what it looks like here.
Many people are coming really to see what has been achieved here with a degree of curiosity, and I'm very sure they will not be disappointed. They will take away from Broughshane a lot of very good ideas which they will be able to institute at home.
Just check the door here. Okay. Ticket from everybody. Make sure everybody's a ticket. We must have an emergency exit out of the bar. Tape that right up the whole way for health and safety. That's a wee thing that's been forgotten about. Everything in order? Happy? The food's ready? I'm happy. Okay, Jeffrey, everything in order? George. That's what we're waiting on. Brilliant. 30 awards. Present and correct.
If anybody would have said to me in 1987 you could bring people from the community to prepare for an event of this scale, probably people would have laughed at it. But now basically people have grown in their thinking. They want the new challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes from Northern Ireland the world sees bad news on television. Here I found your village, which looks like Garden Eden. Thank you for listening, and now I'm coming to the prize.
The jury were virtually unanimous in awarding the coveted gold medal to Clonakilty.
Although Broughane's not in the competition, I think we will all feel for the winners, because obviously when we won, we were absolutely thrilled. So we were small village, having won the Entente Florale for the United Kingdom and for the first time.
So I am very proud and very delighted to introduce to you the children of the Broughshane District Community Choir singing "You Can Make a Difference."
You can make
There are people involved in the organisation of the Entente for All from throughout this village who weren't living here when we started all this in 1987. It has brought in new people, some people with new ideas, and some people with very good technical backgrounds. And in actual fact, thinking about it, probably if we hadn't had the development and some of these new people coming in, it might have been quite difficult to host and to stage this particular event.
I would say now the village is big enough. Up to now we were a community, and you knew everybody and everybody knew you. But even now at the moment, there's people that are in the area I don't even know. There's so many people who wants to come to live here since we started to, and then the houses have spiraled in price. We're more or less a victim of our own success.
We did win Ulster in Bloom this year. We've been picked now to go to Nations in Bloom in Washington DC this year. This is a competition which is on an international basis. We've won it 3 times. We were eliminated during 1999 for having won it 3 times previously. We're now back in it this year.
I'll be 85 on my birthday now in September, and I always wanted to live to see the mill finished, see everything going. And I think the good man up there, he's going to look after me. He's going to see that I'll see the mill accomplished. But if I hadn't had the garden, I think I would have been dead long ago. Because you're up in the morning, you're away, and you've no time to think about yourself. And if you're sitting at the fire and maybe in the house, and maybe some way you think there's something serious wrong with you, but you haven't time to think about that. You're up and you go, and away you go. And I think that's part of my long life.
The one thing that keeps us all going, I think, in Broughshane here is that when we have one challenge taken care of, there has to be another challenge ahead. And I think whether it's in business or whether it's community life, it's the challenge that keeps everybody together.
Okay, the moment of truth, Willie.
This is it, John.
Let's see what Ulster and Bloom think of the village now.
A very attractive village which is kept to a high standard in cleanliness and order.
Well,
that's encouraging.
That's positive.
The trees planted throughout give a lovely effect. The hanging baskets are very good. Ooh.
That's all thanks to you.
As are the planting in beds and grass verges. This is a very good start for Stronocum in TransLink Ulster in Bloom. We look forward to seeing the village develop along the present lines. I think that's very encouraging, folks. What do you think?
Well, we're heading in the right direction anyway.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to go again next year.
Right. More planting, more begonias.
Yeah.